Do I have permission to record this, Gene?
Yep.
Okay. What's up, Flexies? Chris Eryx, aka Baby Trump, in the house. Once again, I told you guys I am loaded with guest stars and not just anybody. Today I have a great friend of mine, from day one that I met him. I'll tell you the story. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in Godcidences, right? And I knew from day one, this guy was more than just a Christian patriot, but he was going to be somebody that I was going to have a long friendship with. And that's Mr. Gene Ho. And I'm going to bring him on in a minute, but let me tell you what happened. So I'm in Tulsa, where everything happened in Tulsa, right? Everything goes back to Tulsa. It's crazy. And I'm in Tulsa, and I have my Louis bag. I love my Louis bag, right? And so I had it underneath the table. I was running around with the speakers and on stage myself, speaking and dancing. And then they had switched my table out and put my merchandise up, Flex the Truth shirts. And Mr. Gene Ho and family were the ones that took that vacancy of my table. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, how are you?" I said, is there a Louis Vuitton bag underneath there? And, he looked and he checked and his family checked and he's like, "No." And I was like, "Well, okay." Meanwhile, my money's in it, my credit cards, my license, my whole life just flashed in front of me. And I'm like, okay, I'm calm. 3 hours later, I found it. I went back to him and, just appreciated, his honesty and, just let him know, hey, I found my bag. And that's really how we met. And I've been on tour with him on the Clay Clark Reawaken tour. We've been in Tulsa, Michigan, Tampa, Colorado Springs is next. Then we hit Texas. I am now a proud Texan. I'm proud to call myself that. He's also going to be in my event October 16th, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But guys, I really wanted you to hear from him and hear his story. Hear his testimonial and how he came to give his heart and life to Christ, because it changed his whole entire life. He's a speaker. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He's a great friend. So far, what I see, every single person this man comes across, whether it's a fan, taking a picture, getting an autograph, buying his book, whatever it is, he takes the time and gives his time and devoted time right to that person. So I've seen that not just once, Gene, I've seen that every place we've been. And that's something, for me that has had, been on TV, was a professional dancer, Chippendales. I see that. I see when fans come up to people, how do they treat those fans, right? And you just give your undivided attention. You don't sit there and look at your watch or look around or, can't even be bothered. You really focus in on that person, really make them feel special. And that's just a true testament of who you are. So Gene Ho, welcome.
You know what? The thing I love about all of this is that story you told, because I remember you saying, "Well, where's my Louis Vuitton bag?" And I was like, wow, this is a big guy. And then possibly I stole or something. We don't know. But I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy is asking for his bag. But it was funny. You were so nice and cordial to me. And I am so glad though that you found it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, but that's how we met. We would have met, coming and going on stage or whatever, or just in a hallway, but that's not how God wanted us to meet.
Yes.
God really wanted us to have an encounter.
And just so you know, and I told you this and won't talk too much about it, but at one time when I was younger, I was a competitive amateur bodybuilder. So right. I can't tell anymore, but that's another thing I appreciated about you, because I do really respect the craft and the dedication that it takes to do what you do. It's marvelous. And that's something that I, offhand, just looking at you, I really appreciate.
Thank you. Yeah. And I have a picture of him too. And I saw it. I was like, woo, okay. I love this. But yeah, so tell the Flexies, Gene, all about you and how you came about, and obviously everybody knows you from, being Trump's photographer, but how'd that all happen?
You know what? Here's the thing. All of this, you said early on that you really don't believe in coincidences, and it's just amazing where my life has started. I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. When I first came down here, I was a lifeguard. I lifeguarded, and I also was a amateur bodybuilder. But then, when I was basically about 20, 22 years old, I started to become a photographer, and I had a 25-year career as a professional photographer, photographed a lot of celebrities, a lot of NFL players, NASCAR players, sports stars, got a chance to know a lot of people, but I never did really anything with politics. And then by a chance encounter, you could call it a God incidence or a coincidence or whatever, but a magazine hired me to do pictures of a convention where Donald Trump was. And this was about 3 or 4 months before he officially ran for president. Met him, liked him. And when I say I like a person, it does mean a lot, Chris, because I have photographed a lot of celebrities, and a lot of them, as you know, because I know you've been around them, they're beloved with people, but like when you see them in real life, they're not very good people. And what I saw in Donald Trump was just a wonderful person. And so I became his photographer for the 2016 campaign. And then in 2020, I was with the campaign taking pictures for Donald Trump Jr. So that's all it is. And then now I'm on the speaking circuit with you. And so just love it. And that's the fast forward of my life.
And then how did you give your life to Christ? What's your testimonial?
Here's the thing. Think about the travel. I had a photography studio with 25 photographers. So I'm doing that. I'm also Monday through Friday doing whatever at the beck and call of the Trump campaign. So wherever they say, whatever they need, I'm doing. And then on the weekends, I got to hold on to my business. So in the weekends, what I'm doing is doing wedding photography all over the country. So for a period, including the campaign of about maybe 5 years, I was like nonstop on the road. And so after the campaign, it was interesting because you would think that my life would get better after the campaign, but people boycotted me, lost my business basically because of that. A long story with an IRS audit. And the interesting thing, Chris, when faith grows in times of darkness, and it was at that time when I had everything and then suddenly lost everything, a lot of soul searching. And it was then that both my wife and I, we decided to turn our life around and really dedicate it to Jesus. And then the world has opened up. As Jesus says, he who loses his soul will find it. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and we're persecuted, and we're persecuted, more so than ever. What's going on tonight, whether you know this or not, I'm going to let everybody know. But hell is about to rain down on the United States tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern. Joe Biden's about to make a press conference. I was told it is to mandate the vaccine. It is for federal employees to get the vaccine or they are let go. So
Wow.
we're now going to go into a two-tier society, of discrimination, if you would, and persecution. And if you look at the ones that are going to be persecuted, Gene, it's going to be the Republicans, the Patriots, the white Christians. Those are the ones that he's targeting. He's targeting that one demographic, if you will. And that's, to what you said, you gave your life to Christ. And, when I talk to people about giving your life to Christ, that doesn't mean you're perfect. That doesn't mean your life is easier. If anything, it means your life is going to get harder, right? Once you give your life to Christ. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, here's the thing, and I've seen this firsthand because whenever you do something, there's a testing period of your life. And so even after that happened, we said this, and you know what? Might as well I'm going to say a lot of things on this. I know a lot of musicians, and without going into too much, I'm going to say there's this thing called the oath of Baphomet, where basically, and we don't have to go into it, but these are musicians that proclaim a allegiance to Satan. And in exchange for the fortune and fame, they got to keep doing their little things and hand signals and their whatever they need to do to put themselves in favor with not our Father, put it that way. And during this time, my wife and I, we said, we were given, basically by me knowing Trump, I was giving a great platform to talk. And we said, you know what? Let's do the opposite of the oath of baptism. Every time we're out there, let's do something where we can talk about Jesus and see where that leads us. Basically, the complete opposite of the oath of baptism, except for you're doing it to honor, because you were given a position, you were given a stage. Instead of giving your honor to Satan, you're going to give it to our Father. And it has changed our lives. I mean, it has separated us from a lot of people. A lot of people, some people don't like us anymore. We used to, I mean, we were used to be beloved in the world. But the thing is, it has given us a new family. So we have depended on people like you, other people that understand what we're going through and understand what happens when you take a step forward for your principles. It's not an easy thing to do, but then you find new friends.
Yeah. And, I love what I love about you is you're bold, that being a bodybuilder, you got to be bold, you've got to have a self-confidence, but you've turned that self-confidence, like you said, into confidence, right? Where you're out. And I love that when you speak, you're speaking about Christ and you're speaking about God. Do you know and you don't know this, there's a lot of places I'm not allowed to speak because I'm speaking about God. And one of them is a podcaster that I was on tour with. And he would not let me speak because I was speaking about God.
Right.
And so, when you have people around you, like you said, that you were beloved, that you were, that the world adorned you, the world loved you. Well, the world is of the devil. And so, I tell people, listen, I was talking to this woman the other night and I said, do you know where you get yourself in harm's way? And she goes, no, why? I said, because you pick gray. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, it's black and it's white. If you take black and white and you mix them together, what color do you get? She said, you get gray. And I go, right. Because the reason you choose the gray area is because you can't decide black or white, and you want both, and you choose both, and it's gray, and it's always wrong, and you always find your way in harm's way. For you, Gene, you choose black, you choose white. You know what's going to happen over here, yet you choose that because you choose to serve a higher purpose. See, your purpose wasn't, it's called anointed. Have you ever heard that? So yeah. I believe you're anointed. When I first met you, I felt like that. And your platform and your purpose is to speak about God. And that's why you have been given that platform. Everybody knows me as Baby Trump dancing at the, Washington, D.C., getting 30, 40 million views on January 6th. But what they don't realize is I'm an evangelist in that I speak about God, right? And so when I'm on stage and I'm speaking about God, they're like, oh, he looks like that. He dresses like that. And he speaks like that. Same thing with you. When they look at you and they say, wait a second, here's a photographer for Trump, but you're more than just a photographer for Trump.
Right. And that's a great point, Chris. And a lot of the people that are on the same tour we're with, you will see that a lot of these people have had the same thing where they're the least likely to be speaking in behalf of our Lord. I'll be honest. I mean, no offense taken to them, but I'm not the sweater wearing Christian. I'm just not. I don't fit the mold of what they think. And in fact, if just look at our president with Donald Trump, I mean, what an unlikely person to basically draw out and empower the Christian conservatives in our country. But these are the people that God is using today. And they're very, very unlikely cast of characters that you would ever imagine. And it's not what people think.
Because you know why, Gene? Because we don't fit in. Trump doesn't fit in. You don't fit in. I don't fit in. You know what I mean? We are not meant to fit in. if we look at our whole lives, I can tell you I've never fit in ever my whole entire life. And now I know why. It's because it is now time for the spiritual war that we're at, for the remnants to take over, the misfits of the world, if you would. Because we're misfits. We don't fit in. We're different. We don't look like Christians. We don't, like you said, that cookie. I tell people that all the time. But you know why? Because we're able to bring other people that don't look like Christians, that don't act like Christians, that don't dress like Christians, right? We're able to relate to them where the cookie Christian couldn't.
Right. I mean, the thing is, when Trump was running, and then everyone is debating, and people started talking about Isaiah 45 and Cyrus. I mean, it's perfect, because what's going on is in Isaiah 45, God's saying, wait a minute, does the clay tell the potter what to do? And the thing is, it's like, I was there, so I got a chance to see up close, and these people I know, and Huckabee, Mike Huckabee is a friend of mine, but you also have Ben Carson. So you had, really, to be honest, if you were to say who in the bunch are truly the classic best Christians, Ben Carson was one and Mike Huckabee was another. But it's interesting where God said, yes, I love you still. It doesn't mean that I don't love you, but in this time, what we need is a Christian like Donald Trump. And it really transformed America the way it is. And it empowered us, because it's like, no, we're not going to be the Christian wearing the little sweater and, excuse me, I'm going to pray for you. Sorry, I'm going to pray for you. Yep. We're the same people, except for we just happen to love Jesus, and we feel that we are willing to do anything for our Father. And it's more of a Jehu, more like a Joshua type attachment to our Father, where we're going to take things and we're going to be bold in what we're going to do. And that's what Donald Trump really, to be honest, taught us what to do.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's my speech: be bold, be different, or be bold, be weird, be you. Right. And because you're right, Jesus was not a meek person. Everybody thinks he was like a meek. No, he wasn't. Right. He took the whip in the temple, and he whipped the taxpayers. I mean, he was a very bold individual. When he spoke, he was very deliberate and bold with the words he used. He was not like what you said. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And to what you said, the enemy wants Christians to be like that.
Right.
Instead of being bold and saying, no, like, I have authority over you, Satan. You know what I mean? How many Christians say that? Listen, I have authority over you. You have no power over me, buddy. You know what I mean? I laugh in your face. And so that boldness, scares. That truly scares the enemy. Because that's why they want us to turn the other cheek and, wear the face diaper to save humanity, the program, like, no.
Right. And the thing is, if we go back to read what the Bible says and read and put yourself where you were with Jesus. When Jesus talked to the Pharisees, I mean, it was beautiful. It wasn't like, it was like, no, this or whatever. What do you think? Like, he confronted them and he was strong to them. And that's what I see going on, is the ones that do that, like you. It's interesting because it seems like our Father puts them up even further up and gives them a bigger platform so that they could talk to people. Whereas, to be honest, some of these other ones that were so, it's nothing wrong with being meek and mild, but is God going to use that meek and mildness to accomplish his will? No, he's going to put the ones out there like Joshua, Jehu, whoever, and even like Trump to the forefront.
You're so right, because that is how I got discovered, was speaking at a Republican committee in Pittsburgh in October. And I was like, I'm not running for, office. They said, no, but we saw your podcast. You're bold. We want you to speak. And so I spoke, and then from there, do my own rally, and then from there, going to and speaking in DC, and then being VIP with no ticket. I had no ticket on January 6th. I'm in the VIP. Next thing I know, I'm front and center, 3.5 minutes on Right Side Broadcast and Fox News, dancing like nobody was watching except the whole world was watching. And I believe that was God's moment of slackjaw. That was David and Goliath moment where I was David, right? And the media was Goliath. And I took that down because I look 3.5 minutes on national TV. That's 7 commercials. That's a lot of money, right? But what that did, Gene, is that put me on Trump's Facebook page. And that was his last post because he got banned for life.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so I got banned for life, hence the name Baby Trump. And I truly believe there's going to be a day when I meet him, and it's probably going to be you that's probably going to introduce me to him.
I tell you what, if I were to, here's the thing, and I'm sure you feel the same way, even forget everything else, even 5 years ago, if you were to ask me where I would be 5 years later, this would be the least of it, let alone like using a platform to talk about Jesus or anything. And also the people I meet. I mean, we are on that tour with people like General Flynn and Mike Lindell.
Linwood.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And the other thing about it is, and I know you know this and we touched on it, but all of these people, every single one of them, they have a unique story. And then when you talk to them, you're like, well, that sounds like my story too. That's interesting. It boils down to it where we feel, or I know you and I feel that there's a new type of person that God is wanting to see that's bold and, to be honest, not a coward. And I know about cowardice because I was part of the silent majority. I was with Trump for 2 years before the last day when I decided to turn my Facebook profile to public and endorse him. Up to that point, I was trying to straddle the fence of grayness, so to speak, and say, you know what? It's cool. It's just a job. I'm just doing it. When in fact, we needed to be bold about it.
Wow. I did not know that part. I did not know that, because that is the part where you have to choose, where God's saying, get off the fence, get in the game. What are you going to do?
Yes, exactly. And that was, you have to remember, I was with Trump for 2 years, a very liberal. I mean, we're talking the arts, so my staff is primarily very, very liberal people. My nanny was LGBT, so I had a lot of people in the left in my organization, and I was placating them because I wanted to save my business. And it was funny because regardless, once I made that decision, the decision to save it was taken away from me. Sure. But it was replaced by a new life that our Father has given us.
Yeah, and what I love is, Gene, you let go of the good to get to the great.
Yes. Oh, wow. I love how that's said. I mean, my wife and I even had a choice midway, and I'll never forget it. This is about a year and a half ago, at least, where we said, you know what? We still got time. We could return to our old life. We could put politics behind us, not use this as a platform anymore, and just rebuild our life. We could even disavow, to be honest. We could have disavowed Donald Trump and said, you know what? We did that. We did our service, so to speak. But now we're back into business, and you know what? We let everything. We let whatever you want. It's good. We don't push anything one way or the other. We had that discussion, and we decided that, what we were going to do was to do what is right in God's eyes. And I would hate to see where my life would be if I compromised that midway and say, you know what, let's just return back to our old life.
Right. It's so easy to do that. It's so easy for us to say, look, and you don't know my story, but about 5 years ago, I started researching. God woke me up and said, hey, look up the Illuminati at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, Illuminati, it's a conspiracy, right? And so I went down in my game when I started looking up Illuminati and I started doing all this research. Long story short, I end up becoming a digital soldier and I get around these really, Christian and good people. And then I start doing all the research and, the Lord's like, well, have a podcast, 7 months ago. And I'm like, a podcast? Like, I know how to be on stage, but not a podcast. And I was doing so well with my MLM, ACN, making 6 digits residual income, didn't have to leave my home, was doing Zoom calls, 10, 15 minutes all around the world. People were signing up, saving, making money, and I was making residual. But God said, you got to sacrifice everything. You got to let go of everything. And the biggest thing he told me to do was let go of my reputation. Let go of my reverence. Like you, let go of, I was top 5% in a whole company of 500,000 people. Talking in front of 20,000 people. And he said, listen, let it go. Let it go. He said, I could barely pay my bills because once you're accustomed to that lifestyle, you know what I mean? You're in that lifestyle. And if the money is not coming in, I'm like, I got to find money to pay my bills. And the Lord said, don't even hesitate. Sacrifice now, reward later. And what happened was, Gene, was once I let everybody go and the people that I thought I was in their circle, all-time millionaires, number one in a company, right? They make $260,000 a month, right? That's what I was going to be. That's what they were cloning me to be, right? Keyword cloning.
Right.
And once I let go of that and I cut them out, all the blessings came.
You know what? This is exactly what I love this because I'm actually opening up stuff I never even talked about before.
Yeah.
But this is now this is what has drawn me close to you and the whole tour that we're a part of is that we basically mirror each other, like almost like from different parts of the world. God put the same thing that happened to him. You have to remember, me as a photographer, this is before Trump. We're a wedding photography company, so I have 25 photographers, and to do a wedding, I mean, it's like to photograph, it's like $2,000, $3,000, whatever, $4,000, whatever. Each week I'm sending out all my people, and we made some good income doing that. So it's all taken away, and you talk about the pride as well because it's interesting. I can't believe I'm revealing all this stuff on the show, but it's good. Yes. We were struggling with everything, but we were building a new life. But you know what? You talk about the pride with it and all, and we're like, well, how are we going to do this? We put away everything except for this one last thing. It was like, basically, I still had my Maserati paid in full, and it was like a pride thing with me because that's the product of my glory days is my Maserati, just a sense of pride with it. But not struggle, but just like, trying to build it. It wasn't until we said, you know what? We don't need, first of all, by the way, we don't need like, just research symbolism. That's all I'll say. But we didn't need that, and we just said it was too much of a symbol of what our past life was. So we put it up for sale, sold it. And it was interesting because after we fully let go of everything that we had in the past, and we weren't even holding on to not even just a memento, just a symbol of what our life used to be. Our life changed over it. It was a complete turnaround, a blessing. This Clay Clark event with the tour we are on has been one of the biggest blessings in our lives. And yes. And as popular as I was, my book was #1 in its category long before this, but that Clay Clark thing, going back to Tulsa, was a life changer for us. Absolute life changer.
Was Tulsa, and I said this, and I said this at the VIP breakfast with Clay, there will never be an event like Tulsa. That night, we stood on the stage in that candlelight vigil, something supernatural, thinking about it, I have goosebumps.
Mhm.
Something supernatural happened to, I believe, everybody that was on that stage that night. That weekend that all went down, and everything. And look, and the devil was after us big time, big time. And, I always said, my call from Clay, I don't know what your call was, but my call from Clay was, hey, Chris, I'm having this event. I got about 500 people now, 1,000 people by next week. I really don't know what I want you to do. I just want to introduce you to the world. I want everybody to know who Chris Eryx is.
Wow.
And I'll
You
never
know,
forget that.
for me, I came late in the game, and I knew that it was going on. And at the time, as you know, it was like the whole country. It looked like all eyes were on Tulsa. Even to this day, people like, man, Tulsa, I saw you at Tulsa, I saw you at
Right.
Tulsa. And it was a life-changing thing. But it was interesting because when Clay came to me, he was like, well, do you want to do the photography for it? And I said, you know what, I appreciate that, but I was wondering if you even had 15 minutes to give me on stage. And I don't think he knew that I was able to inspire people or whatever. But just having that on there and being there, that event was a game changer in my life. It was wonderful.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you know what happened to me on stage. So Clay brought me up in the morning. When we talk about God who's working, when you're around a group of people, and you're all on the same page, you got God working, right?
Mhm.
And that song, when I don't even feel like you're working, right? And Waymaker. And so God was working, and you could see it. But the second time he brought me up on stage was in the afternoon, and I was throwing out my merch, my shirts.
Yep.
Crowd up and stuff. And as I was dancing and getting everybody going, the Lord said, stop the music. And so I looked at Clay and I was like, stop the music. And he looked at me like, what? So we stopped the music. And God said to me, have everybody hug. And I'm like, where are you going with this? Now, mind you, I'm on stage and I'm about to cry right now to even think about this, because I'm getting this download, if you would, literally as I'm on stage. And he says, tell everybody to hug. So I said, everybody turn your left, turn your right, hug one another. And then I go, you hugged the wrong way. And people looked at me like, what do you mean? And I said, let me show you the right way to hug. And I said, we've got to get back to loving one another like we've never loved before. One of the most oldest adages in the Bible, right? Love one another like you've never loved before, right? And so I showed them to take their heart, right, which is in the center of your chest, a little to the left, 2/3 to your left, and put your heart to the other person's heart. So you hug heart to heart with the other person. So you're now connecting hearts. And man, Gene, that place lit up. And I told them to hug. People cried. People, laughed because it was kind of weird, But let me tell you what happened. I just moved here to Texas. I go down to get a burrito, literally like right down the street. I walk in, have my shades on, I'm talking. I order the burrito, take my glass. He goes, you look familiar. I go, well, I had a show on HGTV. He was a younger kid, Jason from Freebirds. Give you another shout out, Jay. And I was like, no. He's like, you're baby Trump. I was like, yeah. He's like, I know how to hug the right way. Everybody, Gene, that sees me says, I know how to hug the right way.
That's awesome. I love it.
Something from Tulsa, like you said, how it changed your life, how it changed my life. That little thing changed our lives forever. And now we're prophets, I believe, and we're all going out, we're all spreading the word of God boldly. One of the major reasons, when I got involved, and I'll tell you about this event, Gene, because you'll be, wow, God's working. So I'm in Michigan. Sandy grabs me, we're talking, And she's like, you need to do events. You need to do events. I said, well, I'm in Texas. She's like, you need to do events in my land. I said, okay. She goes, Terry's doing one right now. And I said, oh, so I called Terry up. Terry's like, oh, would you like to speak? I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, who do you have? So he tells me, and I'm like, I'm like, I could get this one, Dr. Cordy, Gene Ho, right? A couple other people, and Brian Artist. And he's like, oh, well, we'll sit down and we'll talk. So now, a week later, I call him up and we sit down and talk. Now, before I meet him, the Lord says, ask him to either partner up with him or do it on your own. Right. And so I get there and we're talking and everything. And he says, you know, I don't have anybody helping me. I'd really like you to partner up with me. Before I even say anything, you know.
Right.
And then obviously, you know, Sandy's like, Gene Ho. I was like, look, I'll get Gene Ho. I'll talk to him. You are on top of the list, Dr. Brian Artist, another. And so the people that I have seen that I know can inspire, but more importantly, aspire other people, you know, with your message like today. You said things today. You're like, where's this coming from? Like Baby Trump brought this at me. That's and I get on Baby Trump's podcast, I start spewing stuff. Scott McKay talked about his second motorcycle accident on my podcast that he never even talked to his family about.
You know what? I'll say you have a way of you're like my bro. So like, I mean, it's no different if we were drinking beers. It would be the same thing, except for we're in front of all your audience doing it. But it's wonderful, and that's the thing I was talking about, was that basically God had said to us, here's your brothers and sisters, here's your new friends. And it has honestly been like that. And the thing is, we feel the same thing. We've been through the same pains. We've been through the same, almost all of us have gone through the same financial hardships through this process.
I truly believe not only it's one thing financially to go through, it's another spiritually to go through it, emotionally. Right. Some of us have gone through it physically. I know I got hit by 2 large demons 3 months and 2 months out, you know, and I've talked to other people that got, you know, taken down by demons and witchcraft too. I know you believe in that. So, yep. You know, I'm sure you know a lot about that. And so until we speak about it, Gene, most people don't want to bring it to the forefront. But the minute somebody says something, they're like, oh, wait a second, I can relate. Oh, that happened to me. Or, oh my gosh, we're mirroring one another. Right. And there's that comfort. Like when we see one another, we're like, oh, gee, like, you know, it's like we're little kids.
Yeah, but for me, it's different because I'm like, hey, Chris, I didn't steal your money, so you don't have to kill, you don't have to kill me. That's why I was like, this guy almost killed me.
But you know, every time we see one another, it's that family, you know, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you. Oh my gosh, you know, here's my number. Oh my gosh, you know, I'd love to have you on my podcast. I had your number since Tulsa and never got the opportunity to have you on. Here's why. Wasn't ready. Regardless of why. And then all of a sudden the Lord's like, call Gene. Like get Gene on, get Gene at your show. Like whether what was going on with you after Tulsa, or maybe you needed to spiritually, like something happened to you after Tulsa to now.
Right. And just so you know why it's amazingly perfect timing and everything. Between Tulsa and now, I already declared that I was running for mayor of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But yes. So the time was basically during that time I was preparing for this. And it's interesting because it's perfect timing and it couldn't have been better. I just officially got on the ballot last week. So now is when I'm just perfect timing.
Oh my gosh, you know, I got goosebumps everywhere. Oh so my gosh.
Now is when I'm starting to talk about that. It's not easy getting on the ballot. There's a lot of issues. It's a lot more than people think, but it took that long to get everything in order so that I could be officially there on the ballot. And it's interesting because last week, actually, almost when we started talking, I was officially on there. So it's actually perfect timing that now I could talk about it, and now it's official and everything else.
There you go. And everything is in God's timing, I tell people, you know? And it's so funny because I had a gentleman, you'll get to see him, his name's Paul Romero. This guy is running for governor. Now, everybody now knows him. You'll love him. Nobody knew who he was. I went to Portland with Ann Vandersteel. We spoke about 3 months ago. And then his PR person called me and said, hey, I saw you on, Ann Vandersteel. Oh my gosh, Paul loves you. He wants to get on your podcast. I'm like, well, that's great. I don't do politicians. And she's like, well, that's why he wants to get on. I go, you don't understand. I don't do politicians. And then she really was adamant. And I was like, I'm going to swing at him like a piñata. Like, I don't want him on my show. He came on my show. He's now the forerunner in Oregon. Like, people adore this man. And I just had him on again the other night, and I had his lovely wife who's an immigrant. And I said to him, man, this is giving me goosebumps. I said to him, there are more people out there like you, Paul, that are sitting there going, man, I'm an average Joe Schmo, just like Paul Romero, right? And I can take office and I can change, my city, my state, right? My people. And here you are, a people-tician, like a Dr. Cordy, like a Jackson Lehrmeyer, like a Rachel, like a Paul Romero. I love it. And I love all you guys because you're all people-ticians. Jackson loves when I say that, but that's what you guys are. You're for the people, about the people, we the people. You've been on the other side. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to write a bill. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the legend, it doesn't matter. All that matters is you're going to do for the people.
Yeah, I love it. And the thing was, when we first announced, it was November of last year when we announced, we didn't have the campaign, because we don't even know what we're doing, but the campaign didn't even have a single dollar in the bank account.
Wow.
And so we reached out to friends and social media, and we're like, oh, wonderful. There's, right off the bat, there was like $10,000, which is, for a mayor's race is already a lot.
Yes.
Or it's a goodly amount. But then we're like, okay, now we're filing. And then we're like, wow, they didn't realize that they require an occupation for each one of these donations. So then we had to go back and find this, and then we had to go back and find addresses. And
Whoa.
it was a big to do because, we just know that we wanted to make a difference, but we didn't know that there was all these rules that we did. So got a lawyer, cleaned it all up, but it was a big process to get where we are now. And now we feel confident with what we're doing. And I encourage other people.
You will be the mayor of South Carolina. Before we end, we'll say a prayer and we'll speak that in existence because, like I said, I'm so blessed and honored, that I got to speak to you now after the fact that, your name is honored. And people say to me, Chris, why aren't you running? And I said, it's not my calling right now. It's not my calling. My calling, I believe, is to get people like you to that are running for office and to raise you guys up.
Hey, this, just so you know, when I first did this, people even asked me, they said, well, Gene, why do the mayor? Why don't you just run for United States Congress? And I'm going to tell you right now, number one, I have no desire to live in DC. That's the first thing. I've been there many times. I really have no desire. But the other thing about it, there's still a thing where you look at your life and you say, you know what, that's not for me. And that's but everyone needs to look at themselves and then find where they can fit in. And it won't be comfortable. Trust me. Like, I already have my dream life. All right. I already am traveling around the country. I hang out with Flynn. I'm like hanging out with you. I have a dream life. My children now are homeschooled. So I'm with them. I don't need any of this, but it's not always going to be comfortable, but it is what I know God requires of me to do. And it's not, do I feel I'm going to win? Absolutely. But it's not about that. It's about whatever it is that we go out there and other people say, man, seriously, if Gene Ho could do it, the bodybuilder guy, the lifeguard, that guy, if I can do it, and oh, I love that.
How about that, right? You didn't even know. And look, I'm wearing it.
All right.
Is
Do
that
you
not,
sell those? Do you sell those or no?
I'm going to, yes, I
Okay.
will be selling them. Yep.
Okay. Because that I would really like.
Yes.
But when it comes down to it, it's about inspiring people and people saying, you know what, wherever God leads me, I'm going to do. And sometimes He does it for different reasons. I know other people have done it, and it was for no other reason than to inspire other people, or the first one charging the line. When we're storming the beach, the first ones that charge, by the way, sometimes they're the casualties, but that doesn't mean they failed. They're the ones that they're saying, oh my goodness, I'm bigger than that guy, and that guy just ran forward. If that guy ran forward, I'm going to run forward. So that's what's going on here.
Yeah, and I love that, that somebody like you that has been revered, that has been in the spotlight, that has had the limelight, that has been in a campaign, right? Is saying, I'm throwing my hat in the ring because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the others. And you want to
Yeah,
serve and serve it.
it is. It is all. It is all about that, and I do see it happening. And like I said, guys, it does not. It does not even have to be that you have to do something. Like there are people involved in my campaign that are volunteering, and as they're doing that, I said, you realize that I'm not part of the establishment. That because they're attacking me, that now they're going to attack you as well. And they're brave people. They're like, no, we don't care. We're here to do what's right. And I have to be reminded from time to time. My wife says, if from the Bible, if God is for us, who could be against us? I mean,
That's right. And
ultimately,
I say behind every good man is a greater woman.
yeah, absolutely. So we feel confident. And then the other thing is, oddly so, I mean, it's like perfect timing that you gave me a text message, and I'm looking forward to not only this, but almost the event we have. Two of them we'll do together in October.
Yep.
So
Yeah. And so, this is what Gene is about, guys. You would never guess this. Like if you met him and you saw him, you would be like, oh, there's a good looking guy. Looks like, the first thing I saw when I met you, you were a musician. That was the
yeah,
first thing. I was like, boom, musician. You look like bass guitarist, like right off the get-go. But looks are deceiving. And my name, Eryx, I'm to break down barriers. That's what I'm going to do. Break down walls, break down barriers, and somebody like Gene, that you wouldn't maybe go up to and, say hello. You could see not only is he a child of God, but he's also a God chaser. And there's a big difference when you're sitting there and say, well, I'm a child of God. Yeah, but are you a God chaser? Are you the one that is spreading the word? Are you the one, or you are the one that's selfish and keeping that eternal gift to yourself? People like Gene and, other people like Brian Artis and Dr. Cordy and Jackson Landmeyer. And
yeah.
done this. And they're Mike McKay, there's so many, Ann Vanderstill that we are on tour with, that we got to learn one another, right? We didn't get to like one another. We got to learn one another, be around one another.
Absolutely. And the thing is, deep inside, the stereotypes, they do stick with you. I know this because I used to be a bodybuilder, I'm not anymore. But people could look at me back then and say like, oh, this guy's a real jerk. Or I'll be honest, you look at you and you're like, oh, okay.
What did you think when you first met me? Come on. Come on.
I'm just glad I'm just glad I didn't accidentally take your bag. I'm telling you, I'm like, all right, good.
Well, that was like Mike Adams, the health ranger. I met him in Tulsa, and he could not believe, what I looked like and who I was. And I don't know if you remember what happened, if you heard what happened in Tulsa, how I got those guys and threw them out and stuff, but they were up to nefarious things. But Mike Adams said, you never judge a book by its cover. Yeah. And it took Mike Adams to meet me to learn that.
Yeah.
And I met you, I was like, oh, he's a musician, he's probably really cool, laid back, Here you are, you're a photographer, you're a child of God,
at least, the very least, though, someone did a funny skit where they took a photo of me and then showed it to Trumpers. Basically, it says, liberal or conservative. It was just like it was almost all big libs, like, definitely a Biden support. But
That's funny.
it just shows you like you can't judge like that.
No, no, you can't. And that's what I love about you is that every person that comes up to you, you're not judgmental. You know what I mean? You love on them, and you never stop. I've watched you from the time that you get off stage, like other people. And there's people that, they go off stage and they go back to their room and want nothing to do with the people. And,
I tell you what, I love being on a tour, but especially that tour. It's the people that go there, and and if you've never been to, most of them are sold out or about to be sold out. But if you've never been to one of these Clay Clark events, the Health and Freedom or the Reawaken America, it is unique in the people there and the vibe there. It's wonderful.
it is. It really is. And, we don't let other things on the outside, affect us because there's so many elements on the outside and the devil's working. I felt the devil. I don't know about you in Michigan, but I felt the devil. I remember turning to Jeff and saying, man, I feel like the devil's working overtime. Like I could feel this energy and, talking to everybody there and everything that everybody was going through. And even people, that came up to me and, that I had conversations with. And, what's crazy is that, when I had a construction company, one of the major reasons why I wanted to have a construction company was because I wanted God to use me as a vessel to bring guys to the Lord. And in 19 years that I had a construction company, 4 people came to the Lord. Okay, now that's 4 people, that's 4 eternal lives. Gee, since I've done my podcast, since I've been speaking, even if I'm out in, in public, like speaking at a show, whatever, they come up to me and I lay hands on, in Portland, I laid hands on Antifa, right? I mean, I went to the homeless camps with them. They're still, I mean, the platform that you and I have, that God has given us, it humbles us. And for the people, and I'm speaking to the people, and we know who they are, for you not to be with the people, shame on you. Because that's what it's about. It's about the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And really quick, an interesting thought with that. You mentioned that about Michigan, and I felt a little bit of it there too. But here's the interesting thing: a lot of what the devil, Satan does, it also manifests in the attacks manifest in the physical too. And that's why you see there's been like hit pieces coming out on that same tour. Like right now, like before it was like, okay, just ignore them. And then like, wow, the tour is really gaining traction and they're really changing hearts. And then now you see not only that, but in the physical, you see the hit pieces about this, like, and good thing we have our strong leaders out there basically taking almost all the big hits like Flynn and they're Lindell, but they're not afraid of that. They're like Trump. They're not afraid of the arrows that come out.
And a lot of the rallies, Gene, I know for God and Country was canceled in Vegas. So, so a lot of the rallies and a lot of these events are being canceled. I know.
I didn't know that, but yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean the tax.
Yeah, the one in St. Louis. I mean, Eric and them thought there was going to be 40,000 in that arena. And they had to give all the money back because they canceled it. And then put it in a drive-in, and they didn't have enough time, to get all those people. And now they're outside. And then they had like, I guess like indoor, like an old mall or something, but it wasn't an arena where people were, it was air conditioned and it was comfortable. Right. And you could have had 40,000 people in 4 days. Well, they canceled it because they were getting hit pieces, like you said.
Yeah. And
it's almost like, the longer you have to advertise and to promote it, so does the devil. He has more time to destroy it.
Wow. I could see that. It's interesting. Very,
And that,
very
I
interesting.
think that's why Tulsa was so successful. It was done in less than a month.
Right. And really, it was like a surprise attack out of nowhere. I mean, it
Mhm.
was so amazing and memorable. And really, that event made a lot of people's careers in doing this and made them brought them to the forefront of this movement.
Yeah. And what I'm excited to see is what's the next chapter, right? So I know Trump is having a rally in Iowa.
Iowa in October, correct? Yeah.
And I'm going to be there. And I think there's another one, I think in Georgia or Florida or something. So, I'm excited to see that and where that goes and what's the next chapter. So you're saying that you're running for mayor.
Yes, and if like I said, if any of your viewers could help out, my website is Gene Ho for, that's FOR, mayor.com. So Gene Ho for mayor.com. Or if you also go to my website, geneho.com, you could check out some of the pictures there. I have some Trump stuff in there too. So either one, Gene Ho for mayor.com or Gene Ho. And like I said, if you guys could even, we will probably break a record here for the mayor's race for individual donations. I think we crushed it already, but I'll get the numbers because people are donating $10, $25, and it's making all the difference in the world. I mean, the campaign is fine, but we could use the small donations, and it helps bring it so that it shows how grassroots this is.
And I love that. And guys, listen, you're going to hear me tell you this, and you're going to hear me endorse this guy. And the one thing I can tell you, Gene, is, when people come on here, we get people, and I had a guy, $500 to Dr. Mary Crowley, for her for sex trafficking and a movie she's going to be doing here in Texas with me. And so, guys, $5, $10, $20, whatever you feel in your heart. But listen, this guy is a true Christian, child of God. You heard his testimonial. You heard where he was. You hear where he is now, but more importantly, you hear where he's going. And for him to stand out and throw his hat in this, and turn his whole life upside down, turn his whole family's life upside down. This is what we've been wishing for. This is what we've been praying for. So now we have somebody like a Gene Ho, like a Dr. Corey, like a Jackson Lammer, like a Rachel Ham, right? So now what we have to do is, look, I'm going to say this, and you hear me say this all the time, Gino, smile. Guys, and I'm talking to the people that have money, okay? Let's have a conversation. Get your checkbooks out. Get your checkbooks out right now. And here's why. How many times have you written out a check to a charity or to a company or to, say, a church? Let's say a church. How many checks have you written out to a church, and where did that get you? Where did that get you? It got you where we are right now. Your church probably sold out. Your pastor probably sold you out, right? How many times have you written out a check for a politician, for a Republican, for a Democrat, for a liberal, for whatever? Where'd that get you? Got you where we are now. Now you have somebody that is going to stand up for the people. Write out a check to Gene Ho.
Thank you so much, man.
Whatever you feel in your heart, because here's why. If you sit here and you hoard your money and we end up in a FEMA camp together, guess what your checkbook is worth? Nothing. We're both in a FEMA camp together, you and I. You're worth nothing. But if you have the money that God gave you, see, that's not your money. That's not your money. That's God's money. Let your money do some work. Let it do God's work. You want to do God's work, Christians? Write out a check to Gene Ho. Write out a check to Gene Ho. Fund his mayor campaign. Let him be the mayor of South Carolina. And you'll know in your heart, man, I did right. I put somebody that's for the people, by the people, we the people, what you want. And then go to your city, go to your state and go, I want a Gene Ho for mayor. I want a Dr. Cordy for senator. I want a Rachel Ham. for senator. I want a Paul Romero for governor. They're out there, people. You just got to support them. When God puts them and gives them to you on a plate, you got to support them. Now's your opportunity. So, Gene, thank you so much for your time. So blessed and honored to have you, brother. But I'm more humbled and blessed to have you as a brother in Christ and a friend.
I tell you, just to have the conversations with you, it's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. And we're going to pray now. So,
yes.
The first thing that, I do is I do an eternal salvation prayer. So I know there's somebody out there going, man, look at Gene. He went oath to Baphomet to praise and glory to God. I want that. I feel like I'm talking to somebody out there. I feel like I'm talking to somebody out there that is a Satanist. I feel in my heart right now that there's going to be a Satanist. I know you Satanists love me, watch me all the time. And you probably say, man, I want what Chris has. I want what Gene has. How do I get that? All you have to do is invite Christ into your life. Invite Jesus Christ into your life by saying this small prayer. Lord, I ask you and invite you into my heart right now. I invite you into the center of my life. I denounce Satan and everything evil. Lord, I know that you gave your only begotten son. He was persecuted. He died on the cross. He rose again. And you put him on the cross for our sins. You let him get persecuted for our sins, our grace, our mercy, Lord. You let him take all that punishment. Lord, I ask that you wipe away all my sins, that it's just blood underneath the altar right now. From the time that I was born to right now, Lord, that every sin be wiped away right now by inviting you into my heart and into my life. I denounce Satan. Lord, I know I am a child of God and I am heaven bound. Congratulations. If you said that prayer, you are now a born again Christian. And what I love about that is now, that doesn't mean you're perfect. That doesn't mean that you're going to go right out the door and be a Bible thumper and start saying Bible verses out of your mouth. No, what it means is that you're going to get to start over. You got to denounce Satan for the very first time in your life. See, there's no way you can have Christ in the center of your heart or your life if you don't denounce evil. And the Roman Catholicism taught us that we denounced Satan, but it was a lie. All we were was a wet baby. Our godfather and godmother denounced Satan, and they can't do that for us. We have to do that. So if you're Roman Catholic like I was, think about that for 1 minute. Because the Roman Catholics knew you need to denounce Satan and invite Jesus into your heart. Pretty crazy when you think about that, right? So guys, thank you so much. Gene, thank you. I'll see you Colorado Springs. And then again, keep your website out again for everybody if they just tuned in.
Please guys, GeneHo4Mayor.com, GeneHo, F-O-R, for Mayor.com. And I do appreciate it. Love you guys.
I'll see you Colorado Springs.
All right. Thank you.
God bless.
You got it. Thank you.
Guys, remember, flex the truth, flex your mind, muscles, the truth. You're lined up with God now. Now you can go out and you can spread his work, his will, his way with his words. Guys, God bless you. Until next time. See you, Gene.
See you later.